Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to this tutorial, and for this I'm going to be showing you guys how to get situated so that you can begin development using the Java Enterprise Edition platform and deploying those applications onto a Glassfish server. Now, I put together this quick overview just to kind of help visualize and guide this along, but let's say you are using a Windows 7 development machine, and this isn't necessary. Maybe you're using Linux or maybe you're using Mac, it doesn't really matter. But let's say you want to type all of your code on this machine. So you're going to go ahead and download Eclipse for Java EE, which we'll do in a little bit. And what that would come with is a Glassfish server and a Derby database all built in to that package. And so you could type your code and deploy it into these resources all on this same local machine. But what we're going to be doing is actually creating our own Glassfish server. And rather than Derby, we're going to be using MySQL on the server. And this will allow us to use one machine for development and then deploy our applications to this server. And then if you wanted to, you could provide public access to this so that you could reach and interact with these applications from off of your own network. If you're unfamiliar with Glassfish, you can think of it as being somewhat similar to Apache in that Apache serves up web pages to user requests, whereas Glassfish is going to serve up applications to users requesting those resources. Now, I'll just quickly show a list. These are some of the URLs that we're going to be using for some of our steps along the way. And I'll get into each of these as we go. I'll just note that by default, what I'm starting with here is a very basic Ubuntu 12.04 server, 64-bit edition. And during the installation process, the only package that I installed was the OpenSSH server. And I left out the Apache MySQL PHP packages because we don't really need all of those. The only one we're going to be using is MySQL, and we'll just manually install that. So go ahead and log into your machine, and the first thing you want to do is just make sure everything's up to date. And this is not responding, so let me just go ahead and restart this. Okay, so sudo apt-get update. Let's go ahead and upgrade. And just to save some time while this is downloading, let's go ahead and download some of the other things that we need. So in your browser, just go ahead to this URL here, and this is where we're going to download the Glassfish server files that we need. Now there's two ways you can go about doing this. One way is to use their provided shell script, but I've had some issues with this installer and found that it can be a little bit finicky to get it to work. So rather than using that, what I'm going to be using is the zip folder here. So just go ahead and click on this and download it, and in this case I already have it installed, or downloaded rather, so I'm not going to do it again. The other thing we're going to need is, if you go to this URL here, this is platform independent, so don't worry about this portion, but you can either choose to use a tar or a zip format. And I believe in my case I use the tar, so just go ahead and download that. Either way, it doesn't really matter. And then finally, if you want to reference some documentation, you can go to this URL here, and this will give you a PDF that you can go ahead and then save if you wanted and view that offline later on. So let's see if this is finished. Okay, let me just clear this. Now the first thing we want to do is install our MySQL server. So we'll do sudo apt-get install MySQL server. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is prep our machines, and we need to install Java before we can go ahead and use Glassfish. So we actually want the official Oracle Java, not the OpenJDK packages. And to do that, the first thing we need to do is install this package right here so that we can go ahead and run this command on the next step. So do sudo apt-get install python-software-properties. Okay, and so now we can do sudo add apt repository, and then we want to do ppa : web update upd the number 8 team/java, and when you get here just press enter. Okay, so now we can go ahead and just run the sudo apt-get update once again. And now we can actually install the Java 7 installer. So we'll do sudo apt-get install oracle-java 7-installer. Yes. And then a window will pop up. Just hit OK. On this one, go over to yes, hit enter. Okay, so while this is just finishing up, the reason that I wanted OpenSSH installed is because I like to connect to it using a combination of PuTTY to provide terminal access, as well as something called WinSCP. And if you're unfamiliar with it, WinSCP just uses SSH to provide us with a much simpler way to copy files between this local Windows machine and our server. So let's just check on our IP address, and in this case it's 192.168.1.7. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a new connection here. Yes, and okay, so now we can easily connect our computer here, the local machine, to this server. So in the terminal now, what I want to do is just make sure you're in your home directory, and you can easily do that using the tilde. And just make a new directory. This is where we're going to store our Glassfish server files. So just name it whatever you want. In my case, I'll just name it my Glassfish. And now if we go back to our WinSCP and we refresh, we can see that folder right there. So let's go ahead into that folder, and now on the left side on your local machine, go to your downloads, and you want to find that Glassfish zip file that we downloaded earlier. So I'm going to copy that over. Okay, so go back to the terminal again, and we need one more package to install. So do sudo apt-get install zip. Okay, now we want to go into the folder that we created, and you can see that zip is right there, so we want to unzip it. To do that, just type the unzip command followed by the name. And now if we list again, we can see it created this Glassfish 3 folder for us. So let's go ahead and move into that, and we can see there's a couple of directories inside of there. So before we even go further, let's just go ahead and move the next file that we're going to need later on into that. So let's refresh, and you can see this Glassfish 3 folder. We want to open that, and then we want to go into the Glassfish folder inside of there. And now you have the library lib folder. So on the left side, what we want to do is find that connector J folder that we had previously downloaded. And let me just go back. This will be easier. This was the tar file, actually. So if I go ahead here, no thanks, start my download, MySQL connector. So let me minimize that and refresh. Okay, there it is. So actually go back to your main folder. This is the home folder, so we're just going to go one level in, and I want to copy this MySQL connector Java tar file right into there. So let's minimize that. Now let's actually back out. And now we want to decompress this tar, so we're going to go ahead and do tar xzvf MySQL connector. Let's go ahead and just do that. List, and now you can see this MySQL connector folder which was created there. Let's go back to WinSCP again, refresh, and let's go inside of there and just quickly grab this, right click on it, and move to. And so now we want to put it inside of our home folder, inside that directory we set for our installation. Then you want glassfish v3 slash glassfish slash lib. No such file. Okay, I must have made a mistake somewhere there. Oh, it's not v3. My mistake. Go ahead back there, and you want to, let's just use the duplicate command. We want to target the, let's bring it all the way back, my glassfish. This is going to be glassfish 3 slash glassfish slash lib slash. Okay. Do you want to launch a separate shell session? That's fine. Just hit OK. Might ask for your password again. And now you can just double check that it went into there. And there we have that file that we just moved into it. Okay, so minimize that and let's go back to our terminal. And okay, so at this point, we can go ahead and move back into our Glassfish directory. Let's go into that bin folder, and if we list out, we can see all of these files here. This is going to be one of the main commands that we'll use to interact with our server and configure it. So as admin, and to run that, you want to do /as_admin. And this would give you a console that we can type into, and you can get help by just typing help, and it'll give you a whole list out of different commands that you can run. So let me just clear that, and the first one that we're going to want to do is, actually this should be before this. We want to change the default password for admin. And to do that, we want to do /as_admin. And I believe it's change-admin-password. So here the default name is admin, so let's go ahead and just use admin. Enter admin password. Right now there is none, so just hit enter here. And now you need to create a new password. Okay, change should be executed successfully. And now we can go ahead and enable access to the secure admin panel through the web browser. So to do that, we want to do the asadmin command again. So /as_admin space --host, and just type localhost for now, space --port, and let's use the same default port that they would normally use, which is 4848. And then finally finish with enable secure admin. So the first thing we're going to actually have to do, let's take a step back, is as admin space start-domain. And that's going to go ahead and create something called domain 1 and start it up running. Okay, so now it says that the admin port is 4848, but we don't yet have access to that, so that's why we had to run this previous command here. So go ahead and just press up twice on your keyboard to get back to that same command. And if we hit enter this time, now it's going to enter admin username, so for that it's admin. The password that you had just reset for it. And hopefully you got executed successfully. Now we need to restart the server, I believe. So to do that, we can just, if you hit up twice and just type restart, the name is admin, and then your password. Sorry, it's going to be restart domain. Okay. Now, at that point, we've covered all of this here. And to test to make sure everything is working well, just go ahead and open your browser. And let's go ahead and type the IP address to that machine. In my case, it's 192.168.1.27:4848 and hit enter. You might get a screen that looks like this, which is fine. You just want to proceed anyway. And now the admin console should start up. It might take a few seconds or up to a minute. And here you can log in. Your name, at least as far as we've been using, is admin, and then the password again is that same password that you had set before. Alright, and if everything went well, you should now have a screen that looks like this. So now you're connected from, in my case, my Windows 7 machine, using the browser to the Glassfish admin console on our Linux server. So from here you can see you have all of these different options to configure and control your Glassfish server. Here you have domain and different applications. You can monitor the data. What we want to do now is just connect our Glassfish server to our MySQL database in the background. But before that, let's go ahead and actually, rather than use the root account to access it, let's make another account that we can use to interact with the MySQL database. So back in your terminal, go ahead and type in mysql-u space root-p, enter the password for it, and now here we just want to create a new user with, in my case I'm going to give it all privileges. So let's go ahead and say create, or I'm sorry, grant all privileges to, or on, let's do asterisk dot asterisk, so all databases and all tables. To, let's put a user, let's say Glassfish admin at localhost identified by, and then you can just make up some hopefully secure password. In my case, this is just a test for demonstration, so I'm going to make perhaps the worst password you can. And now we can exit out. Now we can go back to this screen, and what we want to do is go down to Resources, JDBC. We want JDBC connection pools, and now select New. Just name this pool. So in this case we'll name it MySQL for connection pool. The resource type, we want let's go ahead and use javax.sql.dataSource. We're going to be using MySQL. And now you can select Next. So on this screen, the general settings and the pool settings should be okay for now. What we're interested in is going down here, and actually, you know what? You have to go back to the previous screen. I think I made a mistake on that. What we want actually is connection pool data source. So let's go ahead to Next. Let me just see my previous setup. No, we did want the data source. Sorry about that. I'm getting a little confused here. You need to use the regular data source, MySQL. This should be fine. Next, and then Let's go ahead and just finish with that. Okay, so here is where we want to select that, and now okay, so if you wanted to follow along with this, I was having a little bit of issue, but if you go to this URL, it explains how to set up the connector for connecting Glassfish to your MySQL database. And if I can kill this process, what we want is let's go ahead to this is frustrating. Alright, well, something is going on with my server, so I'm actually going to end this tutorial right here and get all of this situated so that we can connect to our MySQL database in the next video. So check that out. Thanks for watching.